My husband was secretly wearing my panties until his mom found one in his bag. It started with underwear disappearing from my drawer. At first, I thought I was just being careless. Maybe they got mixed up in the laundry. Maybe I'd misplaced them. But then I found one of my panties carefully folded in my husband's gym bag. The next day, his mother showed up at our door holding the same pair, asking me, "Why is this in my son's things?" This video reveals the shock, the shame, and the silent conversation that changed everything between us. This is a story about intimate secrets, family dynamics, and one woman's decision not to stay silent when confronted with a truth she never expected. What I discovered wasn't just about underwear. It was about identity, honesty, and the difference between acceptance and deception. Subscribe for stories about marriage, secrets, and difficult conversations. The discovery. When missing underwear revealed a hidden truth. My name is Rachel Thompson. I'm 32 years old, and 6 months ago I discovered something about my husband that I never saw coming. It started innocently enough. Underwear going missing from my drawer. A pair here, a pair there. Nothing that immediately raised red flags. I chalked it up to laundry mishaps. You know how things sometimes disappear in the wash, end up in the wrong drawer, get left at the bottom of the hamper. But then I found one of my panties, a lacy black pair I particularly liked, carefully folded and hidden in my husband's gym bag. And the next day, his mother knocked on our door holding that same pair of underwear, her face a mixture of confusion and disgust, asking me a question I never thought I'd hear. "Rachel, why is this in my son's belongings?" This is the story of what happened next. A story about secrets, shame, identity, and the difficult conversation that forced us to confront a truth that had been hiding in plain sight. Let me back up and give you context. I've been married to my husband, Mark, for 7 years. We met in college, both of us studying marketing at Portland State University. He was charming, funny, ambitious. We dated for 3 years before getting married at 25. Our marriage has been good. Not perfect. No marriage is, but solid. We both work full-time. Mark is an account manager at a tech company. I work in human resources for a healthcare organization. We own a small house in Southeast Portland. No kids yet, though we've been talking about starting a family. Mark has always been a little private about certain things. He's not super emotionally open, more of the "I'm fine, don't worry about it" type when he's stressed. But I never thought he was hiding anything significant. We had a normal sex life, maybe not as frequent as when we first got married. Work stress, exhaustion, the usual stuff. But when it happened, it seemed fine. He never expressed any unusual desires or interests. Everything seemed vanilla and straightforward, or so I thought. As the underwear started disappearing about 4 months ago, I first noticed when I went to grab a specific pair, a comfortable cotton set I liked for yoga, and couldn't find them. I searched the drawer, checked the laundry basket, looked under the bed thinking maybe they'd fallen. Nothing. "Have you seen my gray underwear?" I asked Mark that evening. He barely looked up from his phone. "No, why would I? Just wondering. They seem to have disappeared. Probably in the wash." But they weren't in the wash. I checked, multiple times. A week later, another pair went missing, then another. Over the course of 2 months, I'd lost probably 6 or 7 pairs. I started to wonder if there was a problem with our washing machine, like maybe there was a hole where things were falling through and getting stuck. I even called a repair person to check, but they found nothing wrong. "Maybe you left them at the gym," Mark suggested when I mentioned it again. "I don't work out in lacy underwear, Mark." He shrugged. "I don't know what to tell you. They have to be somewhere." Then came the day everything changed. It was a Saturday morning. Mark had left early to go to the gym, or so he said. He'd been going to the gym a lot lately, which I'd actually been happy about. He'd mentioned wanting to get back in shape, lose a few pounds. I was doing laundry, and his gym bag was sitting by the door. He'd forgotten to take it, which was unusual. I picked it up, thinking I'd check if there were any dirty clothes inside that needed to be washed. I unzipped the main compartment, a water bottle, a towel, some protein powder, normal stuff. Then I opened the smaller front pocket, and there it was, one of my missing pairs of underwear, a black lacy pair I'd been looking for weeks ago, carefully folded, hidden in a way that suggested this wasn't accidental. My brain couldn't process what I was seeing. Why would my underwear be in Mark's gym bag? That my first thought, and I'm embarrassed to admit this, was affair. Was he giving my underwear to another woman? Was that even a thing people did? It seemed weird, but infidelity makes people do weird things. But that didn't make sense. Why would another woman want my used underwear? And if he was buying someone else's lingerie, why use mine? My second thought was even more disturbing. Was he selling my underwear online? I'd heard about that. Men who buy used women's underwear from strangers on the internet. Was Mark involved in something like that? But again, that didn't quite fit. This wasn't like he'd grabbed a bunch of pairs to ship out. It was one pair, carefully folded, hidden. And then the third possibility hit me. The one I didn't want to consider but couldn't ignore. Was Mark wearing my underwear? I sat on the bedroom floor, holding that black lacy pair, my mind racing through everything I knew about my husband. Had there been signs? Things I'd missed? I thought about how private he was in the bathroom, how he always showered alone, never when I was home if he could help it, how he sometimes wore baggier clothing even when it was hot out. But those things could mean anything. They didn't necessarily point to this. I put the underwear back in his bag exactly as I'd found it. I didn't want him to know I'd discovered it. Not yet. I needed to think, to process, to figure out what this meant. And that night, I watched Mark carefully, looking for any sign, any tell. He acted completely normal. Came home from the gym. He'd gone later after retrieving his bag. Showered. Made dinner with me. We watched TV. Went to bed. Nothing unusual. Nothing that screamed, I have a secret. But I couldn't sleep. I lay awake next to him, staring at the ceiling, wondering who the man beside me really was. And the next day was Sunday. Mark left early again, this time to help his dad with some yard work. I did something I'm not proud of. I went through his things. Not extensively, not in a crazy, paranoid way. But I checked the places someone might hide something they didn't want found. In the back of his closet, behind some old boxes, I found a small bag. Inside, 3 more pairs of my underwear. Different styles. A simple cotton pair, a red lacy set, a black thong. All clean, all carefully folded. My heart was pounding. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was intentional, ongoing. Mark was taking my underwear. But why? And what was he doing with them? That evening, I decided to confront him. We were in the living room. He was on his laptop, answering work emails. I was pretending to read a book, but couldn't focus on the words. Mark, I need to ask you something. He didn't look up. Have you seen any of my missing underwear? Now he looked up. There was something in his eyes. A flash of panic, quickly hidden. What? No. Why are you asking me that? Because I found one of my pairs in your gym bag. The silence that followed was deafening. His face went through several expressions. Surprise, then fear, then something like resignation. Like he'd been caught and knew it. Rachel, I can explain. Then explain. He closed his laptop, took a deep breath, and said nothing. Mark, I need you to talk to me. Why was my underwear in your gym bag? More silence. Are you wearing my underwear? The look on his face told me everything. Shame, guilt, but also, and this surprised me, relief. Like he'd been carrying this secret for so long that being discovered was almost a release. Sometimes, he said quietly. Yes. I didn't know what to say. 1,000 questions flooded my mind, but I couldn't form any of them into words. How long? I finally managed. A few years. Maybe longer. I don't know exactly when it started. Years? Mark, we've been married 7 years. You've been doing this for most of our marriage? Not constantly. Just sometimes, when I feel like it. Why? I don't know. That's not an answer. I don't know. His voice rose, frustrated. I don't know why. It feels right. Comfortable. I can't explain it better than that. We talked, or tried to talk, for another hour. I asked questions. He gave vague, uncomfortable answers. It became clear he didn't fully understand his own behavior. Or maybe he understood but couldn't articulate it. Or maybe he just didn't want to. Is this a sexual thing? I asked. I don't think so. Maybe partly, but it's more than that. Do you want to be a woman? No. God, no. I don't think so. I just like wearing them sometimes. It doesn't mean I want to transition or anything. Then what does it mean? I don't know, Rachel. I don't have all the answers. The conversation went in circles. By the end, I was exhausted and confused. Mark seemed equally drained. I need time to process this, I said finally. I'm going to sleep in the guest room tonight. He nodded miserably. I barely slept that night. My mind wouldn't stop racing. Was this a sign of something bigger? Was Mark questioning his gender, his sexuality? Or was this just a quirk, a preference that didn't mean anything deeper? And why hadn't he told me? 7 years of marriage, and he'd hidden this. What else was he hiding? I felt betrayed. Not because of the underwear itself. I honestly didn't care if he wanted to wear women's underwear, but because of the secrecy, the lies, the theft of my belongings without asking. If he'd come to me and said, "Hey, I sometimes like wearing women's underwear, can we talk about this?" That would have been one thing. Strange, maybe uncomfortable, but at least honest. But sneaking around, taking my things, hiding it for years, that felt like a violation of trust. The next day was Monday. We both went to work. Didn't really talk before leaving. The tension in the house was thick. I texted my best friend Sarah during lunch. Need to talk. Something happened with Mark. Can we meet after work? She responded immediately. Of course. My place at 6? Chapter 2. The Confrontation. When his mother found the secret, I never made it to Sarah's house that evening, because at 4:30 p.m., while I was still at work, I got a call from Mark. "Rachel, we have a problem." "What kind of problem?" "My mom she found one of your, in my car. She just called me asking what it was doing there." My stomach dropped. "She found what?" "One of your panties. The black lacy ones. I had them in my car, and I guess they fell out of my gym bag when I gave her a ride yesterday. She found them this morning when she borrowed my car." Oh, God. What did you tell her? "Nothing yet. I said I'd call her back. But Rachel, she's on her way to our house. She said she wants to talk to both of us." "Mark, you need to call her back right now and tell her not to come." "I tried. She's not answering. She's pissed. I think she's already in the car." I left work immediately and drove home as fast as legally possible. Mark beat me there by 5 minutes. "What are we going to tell her?" I asked as soon as I walked in. He looked terrified. "I don't know. Maybe we can say they got mixed in with my gym clothes by accident." "Mark, she's your mother. She's not stupid. She's going to know that's a lie." "Then what do we say?" "The truth. I can't tell my mother this. You should have thought of that before you left evidence in your car." We were still arguing when his mother's car pulled into the driveway. Arshta Bersam Patricia, Mark's mom, is 62, a retired schoolteacher, and one of the most opinionated people I've ever met. She's not mean-spirited, but she has very strong ideas about how things should be. Traditional values, conservative views, the whole package. And now she was walking up to our door holding a plastic bag containing my underwear, her face a mask of confusion and disapproval. Mark answered the door. "Mom, hi." "Don't Mom hi me. We need to talk. Now." She walked past him into the living room, saw me standing there, and held up the bag. "Rachel, I found this in Mark's car. Can you explain to me why your underwear was in my son's vehicle?" I looked at Mark. He looked at me. Neither of us spoke. Patricia's eyes narrowed. "Is something going on between you two? Are you having problems?" "No, Mom, we're not." Mark started. "Then why is this—" She shook the bag. "In your car. Is there someone else? Mark, are you cheating on your wife?" "What? No. Then explain this." The silence stretched out. Patricia looked between us, waiting for an answer. And then Mark did something I didn't expect. He told her the truth. "Mom, I wear them sometimes. Rachel's underwear. That's why they're in my car. I took them with me and forgot they were there." Patricia's face went through several emotions. Confusion, disbelief, horror, disgust. "You, what?" "I wear women's underwear sometimes. It's not a big deal." "Not a big deal?" "Mark, what are you talking about? Why would you do that?" "Because I want to. Because it feels comfortable." "Comfortable? Men don't wear women's underwear. That's not normal." "Mom, it's not hurting anyone. It's not normal, Mark. Are you gay? Is that what you're telling me?" "No, I'm not gay." "Then what is this? Some kind of fetish? Some kind of perversion?" I stepped in. "Patricia, this isn't helpful." Mark isn't gay. He isn't hurting anyone. He just has a preference. A preference? Rachel, how can you be okay with this? Your husband is wearing your underwear behind your back. I'm not okay with the secrecy, I said. But the act itself, that's between Mark and me, not you. Patricia looked at me like I'd grown a second head. You knew about this? I just found out, literally yesterday. And you're not upset? I'm processing. But Patricia, what Mark does with his own body is his choice. It doesn't affect you. He's my son. Of course it affects me. What will people think? What if someone finds out? Why would anyone find out? I asked. This is private, personal. No one needs to know except Mark and me. Patricia turned back to Mark. Is this why you've never given me grandchildren? Is this why you two have been married for 7 years without having babies? Because you're confused about your gender. Mom, that's not, we just haven't been ready for kids yet. Don't lie to me. This is clearly a sign of something wrong. You need help, Mark. Therapy. Maybe medication. This isn't normal behavior. I don't need therapy for this, Mom. Yes, you do. This is a sickness, an illness. And if you don't get help, it's going to destroy your marriage. She looked at me. Rachel, you need to give him an ultimatum. Tell him it's this perversion, or you. Make him choose. I felt anger rising. Patricia, with all due respect, this is not your decision. This is between Mark and me. I'm his mother, and I'm his wife. And what happens in our marriage, including what underwear my husband wears, is none of your business. How dare you speak to me that way? How dare you barge into our home and demand that my husband change who he is to fit your definition of normal? The room went silent. Patricia stared at me, shocked. I'd never raised my voice to her before. I'd always been the polite, accommodating daughter-in-law. But something had shifted in me. Maybe it was the shock of Mark's secret. Maybe it was the violation of his mother going through his car. Maybe it was just exhaustion from the emotional roller coaster of the last 24 hours. But I was done being polite about this. Rachel, I'm trying to help. No, you're trying to shame. There's a difference. Mark isn't sick. He isn't perverted. He has a preference that doesn't fit your worldview, and instead of trying to understand, you're attacking him. I'm his mother. I know what's best. You're his mother, not his owner. He's a 34-year-old adult. He doesn't need your permission to live his life. Patricia looked at Mark. Are you going to let her talk to me like this? Mark, to his credit, stood up. Mom, Rachel's right. This is between us. I love you, but you need to leave. We'll talk when everyone has calmed down. Mark, please, Mom. Go home. Patricia left, but not before delivering one final statement. If you don't get help, Mark, you're going to lose everything. Your marriage, your career, your reputation. People will find out, and when they do, you'll wish you'd listened to me. She slammed the door on her way out. Mark and I stood in the living room, shell-shocked. I'm sorry, he said finally. I never wanted her to find out. I never wanted any of this. I know. What do we do now? I sat down on the couch, suddenly exhausted. We talk. Really talk. No more secrets. No more hiding. You tell me everything. When this started, why you think you do it, what it means to you, and we figure out together how to move forward. Are you leaving me? I looked at him. Really looked at him. This man I'd been married to for 7 years, who I'd built a life with, who I loved despite everything. I don't know yet, I said honestly. I need time. But Mark, the underwear thing? That's not the problem. The problem is that you hid it from me, that you lied, that you took my things without asking. That's the betrayal, not the act itself. I was ashamed. I get that. But shame isn't an excuse for deception. We talked for hours that night. Mark opened up in ways he never had before. He explained that he'd first tried on women's underwear when he was a teenager. His sister's, actually. It had started as curiosity, then became something he did occasionally when he felt stressed or anxious. It made him feel, he couldn't quite explain it, comfortable, safe, like he could let go of the pressure to be masculine all the time. It wasn't sexual. Or at least not primarily sexual. It was more about comfort, about feeling different, about expressing a part of himself he didn't understand. Do you think you might be trans? I asked gently. No, I don't think so. I'm happy being a man. I don't want to transition. I like wearing them sometimes. That's all. Okay, but Mark, if you ever do question your gender, I need you to tell me. I need honesty. I will. I promise. The next few weeks were difficult. Mark and I started couples therapy. We needed a professional to help us navigate this, not because wearing women's underwear is wrong, but because the deception and secrecy had damaged trust. Our therapist was excellent. She helped Mark understand that his desires weren't shameful, but that hiding them from his partner was harmful. She helped me process my feelings of betrayal and confusion. We also talked about boundaries. If Mark wanted to wear women's underwear, that was fine, but he needed to ask before taking mine. Better yet, we'd buy him his own. That conversation was surreal, shopping online for men's sizes in women's underwear. But it was also healing. It was honest. It was us working together instead of hiding from each other. Patricia, on the other hand, didn't take it well. She called Mark almost daily, begging him to get help. She sent him articles about conversion therapy, which is both ineffective and harmful. She suggested he talk to their pastor. Mark finally had to set a boundary. Mom, I love you, but if you can't accept this part of me, we need space. I'm not changing. This is who I am. She stopped calling for a few weeks. Then slowly, reluctantly, she started reaching out again, never mentioning the underwear, pretending it hadn't happened. It wasn't acceptance, but it was a tentative truce. 6 months later, here's where we are. Mark wears women's underwear sometimes. Not every day, but when he wants to. He has his own now. We bought several pairs in his size. He's more comfortable, more himself. Our intimacy has actually improved because there are no more secrets. We talk openly about everything now. Desires, preferences, fears. The honesty has brought us closer. I'm still processing. There are days when it feels strange, when I wonder what this means for our future. But I love my husband, and I'd rather have an honest relationship with quirks than a dishonest one that looks perfect on the outside. As for whether we're normal, I've come to realize that no relationship is truly normal. Everyone has secrets, quirks, unusual dynamics. The question isn't whether you're normal. It's whether you're honest, loving, and committed to each other. Dea's epilogue. I shared this story because I think a lot of people are dealing with similar situations and don't talk about them. Partners who have hidden desires. Secrets that seem shameful but are actually harmless. Fear of judgment that keeps people trapped in deception. If you're in a relationship and you have a secret, sexual, identity-related, or otherwise, I'd encourage you to find a way to share it. The hiding is often more damaging than the actual truth. And if your partner reveals something unexpected to you, try to lead with curiosity instead of judgment. Ask questions. Try to understand. Remember that loving someone means accepting all of them, not just the parts that are easy. Mark and I are still figuring this out, but we're doing it together now, with honesty, with communication, with love. And honestly, that's all any relationship really needs.